topic, an important chapter that is called as India's foreign policy. And this is the first important chapter that is come from that India and its with their external affairs, or India and its neighbors, or whatever may be. So being the concept of being a topic from the India's foreign policy, so we have to choose 3 or 4 units from these your chapters, and from this your course, that is what do you mean by the India's foreign policy, then what are the different approaches of India's foreign policy, aspects of foreign policy, and also the types of your foreign policies, the principles of foreign policy, and different things are there. So as a students of India, the foreign policy, so we should have knowledge about what do you mean by the foreign policy. Then after we have to switch to then the India's foreign policy. So in this seminar, we have to conclude, or we have to include 5 important topics, that is the introductions of foreign policy, the meaning of foreign policy, the objectives, approaches, determinants, and principles. The 6th topic, or the 6th point that will cover the agenda of foreign policy: the introductions, meaning, objective, approaches, determinants, and principles. Then let's start about what is the meaning of the foreign policy. What do you understand about the foreign policy? Foreign policy, what is a foreign policy? It means that it is a behavior of a country, and that behavior approaches the external affairs of another country. What do you mean this? It means that it is a set of behavior by which the country can exert pressure. Someone is disturbing. Who is? देखो तमें डिस्टर्ब कले क्लास रु काट देबी. तुम बारंबार कहूची वीडियो बंद करो, ऑडियो बंद करो. जहाँ तुम पचार अच्छी तुम हाफ एन आवर पूर्व पचार. तुम बिल्कुल डिस्टर्बेंस करनी. बारंबार गोटे जिनस कहूची जदि कही नेक्स्ट क्लास रु बाहर करी. So what do you mean by foreign policy? Foreign policy means a set of behavior by which one country can exert pressure on others, just like as an individual's behavior. We are having the negative behavior and positive behavior. If you are having the positive behavior, then we have the positive relationship with other person. Similarly, if we are adopting the negative behavior, or if we are adopting the approaches of negative behavior, then we always have the negative relationship with other person. जदि आमे भलो कथा हबा हमको भलो रेस्पॉन्ड मिलियो, जदि आमे खराब कथा हबा आमे खराब रेस्पॉन्ड हमको मिलियो. Similarly, this is also in the perspective of a country also. The country should imbibe in its fold different type of principles and the policies which has the positive impact upon other country. एमिति किछि प्रकार प्रिंसिपल्स रखिया कथा, जो प्रिंसिपल्स जो पॉलिसी गुडा को अदर कंट्री सहित रिलेशंस तक इट विल इंक्रीजेस द रिलेशनशिप ऑफ अनदर कंट्री. So from the time of 1947, its foreign policy during the Cold War period evolved from being Soviet and antithetical to Western interest to now become an important Western strategic partner and providing a counterweight to China. What is the meaning of this? The India's foreign policy has gone 3 phases. One phase that is called as that after independence, that is the first stage. The second phase that is during the Cold War period. So Cold War that was ended in 1991 during the time of the dissolutions of the Soviet Union. And the third part that is called as that the Western interest, when the United States of America is become the supreme power or the supreme country of the world. So India as a country, it has been passed with 3 phases, and now it being proved itself to be one more important or the superpower which has counterweight to China. China means what? It is a communist country. So starting from 1947, a country which has not adopted any capitalism, socialism or communism as its ideology, and it has passed through Cold War. Cold War means what? What is the means of Cold War? Cold War means Shitala Juddha. It has been passed through the Cold War, and now it becomes the important a strategic partner which can challenges the promises, which can challenges the right of the China. Over the last 6.5 decades, India has massively expanded its influence worldwide, not only economically, socially, politically, everywhere. Within the 60 years, India has expanded worldwide from independence till now. Primarily, it has been expanded its what aspect worldwide through diplomacy. Diplomacy means what? That is called as a techniques and trade, treaty, agreement. Okay, and which has seen its emerge as an influential power in global politics. There are many aspects that played important role in determining in India's foreign policy from the initiation and to that time. Then, in the background, we have to know about the meaning of the foreign policy. What do you mean by a foreign policy? A foreign policy of a state is the totality of its behavior with the external environment. With the external environment means what? The country that are surrounding with the state or the country that are surrounding with India, and what its approaches of the country towards the other neighboring country, that is the totality of its behavior. तमे अन्य को सहित की प्रकार व्यवहार करोच. What is your approaches towards the neighbor country, to Pakistan, to Nepal, to Bangladesh, to Sri Lanka? So what India has its approaches, or what India has what inputting, or India has what that changing its aspect of its behavior towards the neighborhood country, that is called its foreign policies. Someone says that, like Bandyopadhyay says that, it is a set of behavior by which one country can exert pressure on other so that it maintains its foreign policies. It is a set of behavior. It means that a collections of the behavior by which one country can putting a pressure to the another country. Then number 3 is called as what? It can be continue or can be changed. Sometimes it continue, sometimes it change. If the policy is flexible, if the policy is adopted by the other country that are nearby India, then it's continue its policy. If the policy has sometimes a positive the effect, then the policy can be continued. And if it will be changed, if it has been drastically affect the interest of the another country, then it can be changed. So simultaneously, the policy, India's foreign policy can be a continue or can be a change. Then in the next point, that is called as that the foreign policy can be positive or can be negative. How can you know that the foreign policy of a country can be positive or the negative? The foreign policy of a country can be positive if it tries to change the behavior of another country. How could it try to change the behavior of the another country? By changing its other foreign policy. Suppose India is adopting certain type of ideology in its foreign policy, and the other country is simultaneously they want to adopt the ideology of you. Then what will happen? That for India's foreign policy is positive. If it will not change the ideology of another country, then how can we get the notes which ma'am is presenting in the meeting? Please reply, sir. This note is from your IGNOU material. Okay, so I will share and present the notes. I will share your slide after the completions of my presentation. So don't worry, you have the right to share or get the slides after the completions of my seminar, your presentations. Okay, Abhinav Tiwari, तुमको जिनसटा को बुझेगी कहला पर तुम जिनसटा बुझिबो फॉरेन पॉलिसी रो मीनिंग टा कोन एनी डाउट ओके मैम अभिनव टेंशन हुओ ना तुमको स्लाइड मिली जीवो तुम टेंशन हुओ ना ए स्लाइड टा को तमरो इग्नो मटेरियल प्लस 4-5 टा मटेरियल को म मिसेइटा बनै छी ओके तमरो टोटल नोट्स रे तमरो फॉरेन पॉलिसी रो मीनिंग डिटरमिनेंट्स एस्पेक्ट एंड अप्रोचेस आ प्रिंसिपल ए पांचटा जिंस तमरो आसुची जोडा के 3-4टा यूनिट को तमरो कवर करची जोडा तमरो एमपीएससी 2 रे अछि पेपर 1 ओके सेकंड सेमेस्टर पेपर 1 अब किसी डाउट अभिनव
No ma'am. Okay ma'am.
okay
Thanks.
so here a country the foreign policy of a country can be continue or can be changed it is continue if the other country has positive response towards it if it has a negative impact upon the other country then the country has to change its foreign policies then the foreign policy can be positive or can be negative it can be positive if it changes the foreign policy of another country and it can be negative if it changes the foreign policy if cannot changes the foreign policy of another country then the foreign policy can be divided into two types one is called as the internal and second one is called as the external okay then any doubt student objective foreign policy any doubts students if you are having any doubts regarding the meaning and regarding the first thing that is the meaning and definitions of the foreign policy then you can write in the chat box so don't ask by switching on the video or audio so write down in the chat box so that there will not be any type of the break in our seminar and the presentations okay so here the next slides that is called as that the objective of foreign policy किसी डाउट अछि कि ताले लेखि कि चैट बॉक्स रे रखो नाइ जदी डाउट नाइ ताले म आगु को प्रोसीड करबी ओके देन द ऑब्जेक्ट टेंशन होनी मु ओडिया रे भी मझरे पढेबी जेटा तुम बुझा न पडुची किंतु चेष्टा करो जिंसटा कोन से भितरे अछि then the next one that is called as that the objective of foreign policies the what is the objective of foreign ब्रह्मेश कुमार कौन मुझे तुम हेलो हेलो ब्रह्मेश साहू यू आर क्रिएटिंग डिस्टर्बेंस तुमको बाहर कर देवी ब्रह्मेश साहू व्हाट यू डिड कौन कल साउंड असला पचारती ब्रह्मेश किसी लेखिकी दियो मते कौन कल creating mischiefs is very interesting things but solutions is a very difficult process कौन कल तमे ब्रह्मेश anything it is only for them कांगी तमे ब्रह्मेश आउथरे की उडा ऑन कलानी कौन प्रॉब्लम हो जिले तम मानकर
सॉरी मैम मु एबे आसिली ऑनलाइन
तमे ऑनलाइन को आसो कि ऑफलाइन को आसो तमे ऑडियो ऑन करके किछि कहबनी बारंबार गोटे जिंस बुझा होची
ओके
तमे ऑडियो ऑन करके सेकंड टाइम कहबनी जिंस ओडा को जेमदी रिपीट हबनी तो बारंबार कहूची चैट बॉक्स रे लिखियो बोली ओके स्टूडेंट्स so here we are having the four objective foreign policies why the country adopted the foreign policy what are the different objectives of foreign policy कोथि पाई गोटे country तार foreign policy को adopt करे first it seeks to protect the territorial integrity of the country and protect the interest of its citizens first it gives the protections to whom to the geographical boundary geographical boundary means what if the country has the positive foreign policy then the another country cannot the another country cannot you do any type of the war any type of aggressions any type of disturbance with the mother country jodi gote country ro tar foreign policy bhalo heitibo strong heitibo then what will happen the other country or the rest country cannot enter inside the boundary of a country Then the second thing is called as that it protect the interest of its citizens. How it can protect the interest of its citizens? It can through the foreign policy it develops the economy of a country. If the economy of a country will develop or can be increased, then what will happen? The country can be economically well off, and the citizens can get the food, cloth, and shelter in a better way. Okay, then the second thing is called to maintain its link with other international community and adoption of policy of conflict and cooperations. Through the foreign policy, it can make a link through different type of international communities. International community like means what? That is called as the United Nations, different type of Asian, different type of your SAC, different type of Asians, different type of UN. So through this what? Through the foreign policy. If you are having a positive foreign policy, then you can maintain a link to different type of the international communities. And it promotes self-preservations, your security and well-being of its citizens. If the foreign policy is not aligning with any country, or the foreign policy of a country cannot be alliance of any power, cannot be the alliance of any negative power of another state, then what will happen? It promotes the reservation and security and well-being of its citizens. It will not happen, it will not do or will not make it happen any war, any type of aggression, anything else in the futures. Then it promotes the economic interest of the country that I have already discussed. So for this, the 3 or 4 objectives, the country has adopted the foreign policy. So why? Now it gives the protections to the citizens, it gives the protections to the citizens, the security to the reservations, and it get rid of the conflict, and it gives the cooperations, and it want to make a link to the international community and different things are, and to avoid the war and to make any type of alliance. So these things are required while the country has adopting the foreign policy. So this is the what? This is the main objective of the foreign policy. Slides are present. Please select another name of mem. Slides are present. On precise present. Slides are present. Please select the another name of mem. कौन रे slides are present? Please select another name of mem. माने कौन? Slide देखा जाउची तो? Please see the another name of slides are present. Please select the another name of mem. कौन another name of ma'am? अभिनव तिवारी कौन बुझिलोनी? Yes ma'am, we can see. Slides are present. Please select the another name of ma'am. माने कौन रे? मु किछि बुझुनी जिंसो. तब स्लाइड तो देखा जाउछि पुरा. वीडियो काई ऑन करूजो? ऑडियो वीडियो बंद करो. Then we are having the different principles. We are having the different principles of foreign policy. So among the principles of foreign policy, the first principle that is called is that non-alignment. So in this capacity, there is a negative word everywhere. There is a negative word that is aligned with a positive word. So we can easily written right here alignment. But here, what do you mean by the non-alignment? Means the concept is negative, but it gives the meaning something positive. Okay, non-alignment means what? Not to align with any alliances, but be friendly with everyone. What is the concept? After your Second World War, during the time of the Cold War, after the Second World War, what happened that the whole world is divided into 2 blocks, 2 ideological block. That one block that was supported the capitalist, and the another block that was supported the communist. And between the 2 blocks, the capitalist bloc and the communist bloc, the other countries are there. They invited the rest of the country to be the alliance of either the communist bloc or to the capitalist bloc. I cannot see the slide, ma'am. Ranjan Kumar Raul, तुमको देखा जाऊनी slide? अन्य मानव कौन problem? अन्य मानव देखा slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Slide तो present रहउची कौन में असुविधा तमरो? रंजन तुमर कोन प्रॉब्लम थिबो आउ थरे रिजॉइन करो. सरिता देखा जाउछ तो? Okay. So here one thing is that after your Second World War that was completed in the year of 1945. So after the Second World War, ma'am, I cannot slides, ma'am. Ki English reader? ओके नाउ मैम रंजन कुमार राहुल। अच्छा रंजन तुमको देखा गला तो जगदीश भोई देखा जाओनी जगदीश भोई ट्राई करो आउथरे because don't write anything during your presentations जगदीश भोई देखा जाओनी आउथरे ये करो जॉइन करो अन्य मानको कोन रे लिखिलो देखा जाउछ ना नै स्लाइड्स स्लाइड तो शो करूची अन्य माने लेखि कि देखिलो स्लाइड शो करूची ना नै इज इट विजिबल और नॉट सागरिका देखा जाउची मैम आपण को दीटा एसी अकाउंट हे अच्छा मोर दीटा अकाउंट हे जाईची ले को अकाउंट को त माने ये करूचो और सेही लगे अधा पिलर स्लाइड देखाउछ अधा देखा जाउनी अच्छा अच्छा देखुची रो दीटा अकाउंट हे जाईची
अरे सुस्मिता पटनायक और আছে
सुस्मिता पटनायक तो স্লাইডটা কোন নিচে
সুস্মিতা পটনায়ক
এটা এটা
এটা हमको तीन একটা এই আউকে প্রেজেন্ট করছো না আউ
কাই কো স্লাইডটারে স্লাইড তো সুস্মিতা পটনায়ক ঠিক ଅଛି ମୋର
আউকে প্রেজেন্ট করছো না আসুনি
আচ্ছা
কি और প্রেজেন্ট করলা हमको वीडियो
আচ্ছা তুমি সব ভিডিও কাই অন করিছো দিলীপ রেড্ডি সব ভিডিও কাই অন করিছো ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କି ସୁସ୍ମିତା ପଟ୍ଟନାୟକ ଅଛି ଏ ଭିତରେ ସୁସ୍ମିତା ପଟ୍ଟନାୟକ ଆଉ କି ଅଛି अच्छा जो सेकंड सुस्मिता पट्टनायक टा अछि सेठी क्लिक करो हां एबे क्लिक करो एबे देखा जाउची अच्छा नाउ विजिबल विश्वजीत सेठी बोलार देखो हां देखा गला ओके अच्छा से भितरे कोन डाउट अछि अच्छा कोन डाउट अछि कि रे भितरे so here we are having the principles of India's foreign policy. So I composed my all the slides by taking the points from unit 1, 2 and 3 because I am having only 3 classes to your complete the whole chapter. Then therefore I take one your slides from the different type of the units. So here we are having the principles of India's foreign policy, and the first principle is called as that the non-alignment. What do you mean by the non-alignment? After the Second World War, there is the ideological constitute the communist किए गुटे सार को फोन करछि रो कौन हो नेटवर्क एनी वन अछि
कौन
नहीं नहीं डिस्टरबेंस हो छी क्लास
को ऑफ करे आसो
सुस्मिता दास तुम वीडियो ऑफ करो रोजालिन राउतराय सुस्मिता दास
हमको ऑडियो ऑफ करे
एंड हो छी
ऑडियो
फोन छी तो आईफोन में जाउछी तो सत्यधामा आचार्य तुम ऑडियो ऑफ
मैम
करो, ऑडियो ऑफ करो। मोर प्रॉब्लम होची, मो प्रेजेंटेशन ब्रेक होची। कौन होची ना कौन एमडी हेले तम कोर्स केमती कंप्लीट हबो मु निजे बुझी पाउनी।
मैम बुझी पारुनी केमती ऑफ करम।
तम तळे तीनटा बटन थिबो देखो राइट साइड रे।
हाँ
नंबर तो देखिनी।
ओके मैम स्विच कैमरा टर्न
824
8249180768। और सावित्री दे तमे काई वीडियो ऑन करछो? तुमको क्लास रे किछि बुझा पड़नी ना एमती डिस्टरबेंस करे इंटरेस्टेड होजो?
मैम हल्ला
नहीं तमे ऑडियो रे पचार ना बारंबार कोची मु चैट बॉक्स रे लेखि कि दियो। तमे वीडियो ऑफ हैला ऑडियो रे प्रॉब्लम करनी मते क्लास रे मु कंसंट्रेशंस करि पारुनी। आउ के रहला तुम डिस्टरबेंस करूचो? कौन स्टूडेंट तुम क्लास बुझा पड़नी ना कौन मुझे बुझा पड़नी? सावित्री दे मनोसा ये सब तुम वीडियोटा बंद करो भाई। जापरे
मैम
तुम
मोर
स्लाइड
आसीची
हां
मोर आसीची नोट्स माने सब।
तुम कोन वीडियो बंद अछि?
हाँ मोर देखा जाउछ सब नोट्स माने।
तुमको देखा गले कोन हबो तुम ऑडियोटा कहीं ऑन करछो?
मैम
ऑडियोटा म्यूट रे करो। तमरो जहां लेखिबा कथा चैट बॉक्स रे लेखो। तमरो जहां लेखिया कथा चैट बॉक्स रे लेखो। Someone is written Abhinav Tiwari. Ma'am, can we say capitalist bloc was headed by United States of America and communist bloc was headed by USSR? Very good answer. So after 1945, there is the ideological divisions between the two superpowers. Out there, kya disturbance करूचो? खराब ହେଇଗଲାଣି ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କର। If it will happen, then I will not take your class. ମୁଁ ଆଜି ବାରମ୍ବାର କହୁଛି ମୋ କ୍ଲାସରେ ଏମିତି କେବେ ଡିଷ୍ଟରବେନ୍ସ ମତେ ପସନ୍ଦ ନାହିଁ। ତମର ଏଇ ପ୍ରକାର ଯଦି ଚାଲିବ ମୁଁ କ୍ଲାସ ନେଇ ପାରିବିନି ତମର। So here, one thing is that the total block has been divided into two parties or the two blocks. That is called as that the capitalist block and the second one is called as communist block. So the communist bloc that was headed by your USSR and your capitalist bloc that was headed by United States of America. So these two superpowers, they are invited the rest of the country. The rest of the country means which country? The newly developed country. Like that of your India. Just India has got the independence from the colonialism. And the other countries like that of your Yugoslavia, like that of your Egypt, okay, Ghana. So different countries are there. So the two superpowers, they have invited this newly emerging country or the newly developing country to be the part of themselves. USA, it invited some country, and your USSR also invited some country to be the aliens of their blocks. So at that time, what happened that the Pandit Nehru, he had an ideas, and that idea is otherwise is called as that the non-alignment. So in that period, in 1954, your Jawaharlal Nehru, with the help of your five leaders like that of Nasir from Egypt, Tito from Yugoslavia, Sukarno from Indonesia, and Nkrumah from Ghana. And these five leaders, they want to what? Compost one thing that is called as that non-alignment movement or non-alignment countries. What do you mean by non-aligned? Now, these 5 countries, they are the major country, and including these 5 countries, the rest of the country, they are also invited to be the member of the non-alignment blocks. So these non-alignment country, they are having different type of the principles and the objectives. So this is the first principles of India's foreign policy. So there, the main principles of non-alignment movement are not to involve in international disputes. If they are having any type of dispute in the international level, then these are their problems. The country should not involve in the international disputes. The second one, to be aloof from military pacts. What do you mean by military pacts? If any type of military pacts, treaty and agreements are there, then the country should be besides from there. The country should not be the part of any type of the military pacts. Then the country should not join any type of power blocks. We are having different type of the power blocks, ideological blocks, power blocks. So the country should not be the part of any type of power blocks, not the part of socialistic bloc, not the part of the communist bloc, not the power of your capitalist bloc. Then the country should have faith in the peaceful coexistence. And the last one, the country should have indifferent to world problems. If the country, these are the what? The main principles of India's foreign policies. Then the next one that is called is that the faith in United Nations. Keep me audio on color. रमेश साहू तुमको कौन वीडियो देखा बेसी इंटरेस्ट की सुरभि साहू बा रमेश साहू वीडियो बेसी इंटरेस्ट की देखा पे तुम नाटा कंप्लेन लिस्ट रे पके देबी The next one that is called is that the faith in United Nations. The Indian foreign policy has always faith in United Nations. So for these purposes, the India always is a champion of the policies and the programs of the United Nations. The next point is that the use of atomic energy only for peaceful purposes. The India has adopted the best principles, that is that he or she should not use the atomic energy for any type of the war, any type of aggressions, but it should apply or it should use its atomic energy only for the peaceful purposes. Then oppositions to colonialism and imperialisms. So there is a basic differences between colonialism and imperialisms. If there is any type of colonial country, if a country has been dominated by any superpower or any type of the big country by the process of the colonialism and the imperialisms, then India will come and give the help to that type of the country to get rid of from the colonialism and imperialisms. What do you mean by the colonialism and imperialisms here? Colonialism means what? That when a big country make a colony to any type of the small country, if there is having any type of the for any type of the economic purposes, that it is called as a colony. Just like India is a colony of UK before the independence. Then the next one is called imperialisms. Imperialism means what? When the colony has been expanded from state to state, from country to country, that is called as that the imperialisms. So both the policy, as India is himself or herself being the witness of the policy of the colonialism and the imperialism, so India did not want that the countries should be the victim of the colonialism and imperialisms. Then the next one is called as that the oppositions of racialisms. Racialism means what? That is called as that is the color differences. That is the racialisms. The India says that don't favor any type of don't favor any type of the people in the name of the color, in the name of the race. So the policy is in the oppositions of what? That is called as racialisms. The next one that is called as that oppositions to terrorisms. Terrorism or any part of it, the internal terror or the external terror. There are two types of terror, the internal terror and the external terror. And as the principles of Indian policy is the opposing the terrorisms. Then the next point is that it maintaining the good relationship with the neighbor country. Instead of the China, Leave China, the other countries are there. India's are having the good relations with other country. Only the China and the your Pakistan are not the example of that. But the rest of the country, like that of Nepal, like that of Bangladesh, like that of Bhutan. So this the primary objective or the positive objective of this country are to maintaining the good relationship with the neighbor countries. And for these purposes, it has adopted the positive foreign policy or the positive principles of India's foreign policies. Then demand for new international economic order. It is established or it has adopted certain type of economic order in the international levels. Then it always have a craze to make a seat, and that seat is the permanent seat in the security councils. It wants to be a permanent member of security councils. So these are what? These are called as the principles of Indian foreign policies. Then the next one is called as that international corporations, faith in Panchashila. Panchashila, you know that Nehru and Chow In-la of China, he has implemented the Panchashila principle in 1954. And these are the 5 principles of Panchashila, that is the mutual respect, give respect and take respect. Don't aggress to don't make any type of invade to another country. Don't interfere in the internal and the external affairs of another country. And mutual cooperations with one to another and having the peaceful coexistence between the two countries. Okay, then the opposed to military alliance. If there is any type of alliances, then the country should oppose it. Then the India is the great supporter for this armament. These are not armament, that is called disarmament. India is a great supporter of disarmament, that is not THIS, that is DIS. Okay, the supporter for the policy of the disarmament. So is a supporter of the policy of the disarm, that these points are only the your exaggerations of the previous point. Okay, so as a member, India is the 18th member of the Disarmament Commission formed by the United Nations, and this is called as the support for the disarmament. And in the next one, that is called as the developing the relations with East. So here, in order to, the India says that the maintaining the good relationship only to the East is not only the objective of India's foreign policy. The India should maintaining its foreign policy to the Southeast country and to the East country. So for these purposes, your the PV Narasimha Rao, he has adopted the policy that is called as the Look East policies. And for Look East policy is only the objective of the Look East policy is that it has expanded its relationship to the East country. Okay, but after that, the Narendra Modi, he has adopted another policy that is called as Act East policy in 1914. Okay, and in the acted policy, the main objective of this policy is that the India should not have directed its policy only to the Southeast, but it has also directed its policy to the East countries. So this is what the developing the relations not only to the East country but also to the Southeast country are the main objective of the India's foreign policies. Any doubt, students? Having any doubt, then write down in the chat box. किछि भी डाउट थिले लेख किछि असुविधा नाही एति बुझी गलो then in the next slide ma'am please explain Panchashila अच्छा अभिनव तिवारी एंड आउ के रहला अभिनव तिवारी तमर जो पंचशीला म आउ थरे नेक्स्ट रिपीट करबी किंतु लेट्स द स्लाइड्स टू बी कंप्लीट ओके आई विल रिवाइज डोंट वरी टोटल स्लाइड को मु रिवाइज करबी then the determinants of India's foreign policies. So I think that this unit is from the second units. So here the internal of the determinants of the India's foreign policy that has been divided into 2 parts. One is called as the internal factor and second one is called as the external factor. There are certain type of the internal factors are that are, what do you mean by determinants? Determinants means what? That are called as the main your factors that has the effect upon the foreign policy. It having or it putting impact upon the foreign policy of a country. And from the determinants, these determinants can be divided into 2 parts. There are certain type of internal factors are there, and there are certain type of external factors are there. Some internal factors are putting pressures upon the Indian's foreign policy, and also simultaneously some external factors are also they are putting pressures upon the India's foreign policies. So from the internal factors, if we are taking into account the internal factors, there are the lots of internal factors are there. The most important internal factors are is called as that the geography. What do you mean by geography? Geography means what? The topography of a country, the climate of a country, the boundary of a country, the temperatures of a country, the soil of a country, the population of a country, and the water resource of a country. If the population is what it is, if the country has large populations, then the country the country cannot develop. The foreign policy of a country cannot develop. If there is a problem in the water resource of a country, just like there is always a problem in between the India and in Bangladesh. There is the large water dispute in between the India and Bangladesh. So if there is any type of the problem in the water resources, then it is also a great determinant in the foreign policy, or it has the negative impact upon the foreign policies. Then the soil means it always what relates with the productivity of the country. If the soil is the good one, then the production capacity of the country is naturally increased. Temperatures, the cool temperatures, the boundaries, the climates, and the topography, so everything's togetherly they constitute the geography of a country. So here it has been written that the geography is itself not only helpful or contrary factor, but human beings take its benefit through their activity. Geography plays an important role in formulations of India's foreign policies. Sometimes the boundary, the temperatures, and the soil, whatever may be, the individuals through their activities, through their efforts, they change the geography of a country and the foreign policies of a country. So this is called as that the first determinants or the first internal factor or the internal determinants of India's foreign policies. Any doubts, students? Any doubts? Okay. But in the Indian sense or Indian context, the geography generally constitute three things. One is called as that the positions, second one size, and third one is called as boundary. Positions means what? Where it has been situated in the north or in the south, or it has been situated nearby the any type of the superpower. So generally, the positions of a country always has a great determinants upon its foreign policies. Then the size. If the country size is the big one or it is very large one, then what will happen? It should have the exact population should be required inside the country. The size of a country have its matter upon the foreign policies, because if the size is the large one, then the administration of the country should be what it should be the exact one, and the population should be the great one. If the size was the main factor, then the territory of the country is the primary or the primacy for that country. The third is called as the boundary. What do you mean by the boundary? The boundary it constituted with what? That is called as the mountains, and that is called as the maritimes. Different type of oceans, different type of your high mountains, high valleys are there. So these things are constitute what? The boundary of a country. So togetherly, the positions where the country has been situated, with the size of the country, the big and the small, or maybe the medium size, and the third one is called as the boundary. Togetherly, they constitute or having a great impact upon the India's foreign policies. So here, the India's geographical positions provides an important place in international and regional context, but at the same time, it creates a sense of insecurity also. In the North Mountain range like Himalaya and in the South Indian Ocean makes India what? Highly insecure. In the northern, we are having the Himalaya, but we are facing the attack from where? From the Pakistan and the Afghanistan. There is the Indian Oceans in the south, but we are facing the what? The attack from the Sri Lanka. We are not having the good relationship with Sri Lanka. So togetherly, we are having the geographical locations of the country is not a good one or not in a good positions. Then the next slides. In the next slides, then we have to go. We are going to discuss about the determinants of India's foreign policy from the ancient to the modern one. What do you mean by the determinants of the foreign policy from the ancient to the modern one? In ancient India has to face the attack from the tribal, and the tribal is from the northern from the northeast or maybe the northeast your portion of India. But simultaneously, on the other hand, it has to succeeded its relationship or expanding its relationship with other country like that of Tibet, China, Mongolia, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia. So if we are having a knowledge about the positions of India or the influence of the foreign policy of India, then we can say that in ancient time, India has suffered many attacks from that of the northeast. But now there was no attack is there. Simultaneously, India has expanding its relationship with other country like Tibet, China, Mongolia, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia. In the medieval period, due to some reason, it had to face the it has to face the some type of the problem. In the medieval period, due to the same reason, it had to face the invader in northwest, and consequently, the whole subcontinent slipped into the grip of Islam. In the modern times, due to the insecurity of sea routes, India had to struggle against various European imperialistic power, and finally India falls under the British Empire and remained a colony for around 200 years. So what was the things is that from the ancient period to that medieval period, we had made that is called as we had made a research. In the ancient period, India has many problems are there. It was facing the struggle from different type of invaders are there. And the invaders they are from the northwest, from the tribals, from the different type of Toglogs. So different things are there. And generally they are the people from the Islam territories. But nowadays, what will happen? Now, due to the sea routes are there, but these sea routes are totally insecure. So for these sea routes, India has been struggling before the independence. India becomes a colony of the British Empire for 200 years, because we know that India was a colony in the hand of the British Empire before 1947. British had came here to make any type of the economical relationship with India. Then after the Second World War. Okay, so what was the time in the internal factor? What is the determinants of India's foreign policy during after the Second World War? We know that we are having the war in between 1939 to 1945. So in this period, it got trapped in military alliance due to Cold War politics of America and Soviet Union. The size of a country also plays an important role in determinants of its foreign policy. So in between the 6 years, India did not develop any type of foreign policy with any type of the superpowers. At some times, it fell under the grip of the United States of America. At some other times, it got trapped with the Soviet Union. If it makes any type of alliance with the Soviet Union, then what will happen? The United States of America become angry. And at some times, if it becomes the alliance of the United States of America, then it becomes a rival act for the Soviet Unions. So for these purposes, what will happen? The India becomes it got trapped during the 1939 to 1945. It got trapped in military alliance due to the Cold War. Then the size of a country also plays an important role in the determinants of its foreign policies. We know. Then the next one is called as the geography. In the geography, that is called as the maritime, the positions of a country. We can say that India had the maritime relations with Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Maldives. Okay, India is maintaining the maritime relationship with Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Maldives through its foreign policy. And India is facing pressure on its foreign relations since beginning due to the dispute arising out of the boundary controversy, and these problems erupt many during the time of 1971, during the time of what? The year 1962, during the time of the 1999, during the Kargil War. So everywhere. India is facing what? The dispute of the boundary dispute with Pakistan, sometimes with China, sometimes with the Bangladesh. For your Kashmir issues or for the Kashmir issue, India is fighting against the Pakistan. For the border issue, India is fighting against the China. And from the maritime issue, India is fighting against the Bangladesh. For some basic regions, from the geographical regions, India is facing problems with the other countries. Is it doubt us, students? বুঝি পারছ? বুঝি পারছ স্টুডেন্ট? চ্যাট বক্সে লেখিকি দিও। স্পিড হচ্ছে প্রবলেম কিছু নাই তো? କିଛି ବି ଡାଉଟ୍ ଥିଲେ ଚାଟ୍ ବକ୍ସରେ ବିନା ହେଜିଟେସନରେ ଲେଖିକି ଦିଅ, କିଛି ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ନାହିଁ, କିନ୍ତୁ କ୍ଲାସରେ ଡିଷ୍ଟରବେନ୍ସ କରନି। Okay, then in the next slides we can see that India Pakistan, we have already discussed that India and Pakistan, so sometimes what happened, the India and Pakistan have tense relationship, and that tense relationship having three type of war: 1948, that is what the partitions period, 1965, and again in 1971. So here in between the three wars, the India having facing the dangerous situations, and in the last war, that is in the year of 1999, that was the Kargil war. So in 1971 there is the Simla agreement. Okay, so all this war that was fought in between the India and the Pakistan, only for what? That is only for the your Jammu Kashmir issues. Okay, so this is the main thing that is called as what? That is the internal factor, or that is the geography factor of India and Pakistan. Then the next thing is called, what do you mean by here? Ma'am, ODA re tikke kuhantu. Rasmita Patra. Kahibi Rasmita, tension niyo na, tomo jetro sorry jibo slides, tapare mu tomko ODA re kahibi. Karan eta recording session, mu tomo sabu ODA re kahile problem huye, अन्य पिला अन्य रो तमरो स्टेट रो पिला माने सुनंती, सेति लागे टेंशन नियो नि। जोटी तमो डाउट अछि किछि असुविधा नै, मु फ्रेंडली समस्तक सहित तमे चैट बॉक्स रे लेखि दियो, किछि प्रॉब्लम नै, किंतु डिस्टर्बेंस करनी क्लास, डिस्टर्बेंस करले मोर शत्रु कि नै। Then the second is called as that the India China border war. So it's a student of IGNOU, tame IGNOU student, just to what, get the pass mark, tame khali pass hebata, that is not a matter, that is not an issue. So you should having a what good knowledge in the foreign policy of a country. Tame jetolo jati prakutar tama knowledge foreign policy ko rohibo, tale tame gut jinso ko aram re lekhi paribo. So if your questions will come about the India's foreign policy, and you don't have any knowledge about what do you mean by the foreign policies of a country, then how can you write about the India's foreign policies? Okay, if a questions will ask about what do you mean by the Cold War, in my PG student, sometimes I have an the surprise visit to the PG student and ask the students that what do you mean by the Cold War. The students, they will tell me that ma'am, Cold War is nothing but that is called as Barafa Juddha. So is this the correct answer? Just what? Just get the PDF and go through the PDF. It's not a correct things. So you should have the common understanding about the word that has been used, that is used in the foreign policy, India's foreign policy. So don't think that tame gote jinso padi dekiri parikha da penti basina. So you should have a what depth of knowledge about the foreign policy of a country. So tomar knowledge ta thik rahila, determinants kono, factors kono, principles kono, aspect kono, approaches kono, meaning kono, तापर तुम आराम रे लिखि परिबो तारो इंडिया रो रिलेशंस नेबो कंट्री सहित पर। जदि तुम फॉरेन पॉलिसी एकोनॉमिक्स बुझिलो ताले तुम गोटे जिंस को आराम रे ताको डिटेल्स भाबरे तुम जानि परिबो। गोटे सपोज ए क्वेश्चंस विल कम अबाउट द डिटरमिनेंट्स ऑफ फॉरेन पॉलिसी, you don't know about what do you mean by determinants, simply you wrote that the principles of foreign policy. So principles and determinants, this is totally different. Foreign policy, if you don't understand about the foreign policy, then how could you write about the foreign policy during the time of the Nehru, during the time of Shastri, during the time of Indira Gandhi? So there are different, your political leaders are there, prime ministers are there, and what they have adopted their foreign policy during their times. So you have to write down. This is called as the determinants of Indian foreign policies. Okay, students? So Rasmita, don't worry, ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ସରିଲା ପରେ ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ବୁଝେଇବି, ଠିକ ଅଛି? So here the second factor that is called as that India-China border war. So we know that India has tense relationship with China, and it has been the source of dispute and finally resulted in India-China border war, that is in the year of 1962. Then the Bangladesh, there is a dispute in the water resource dispute that has been always a source of dispute between India and the Bangladesh. Okay, so these three country means what? That is called as India Pakistan, India China, and India Bangladesh. These three countries, they are facing what? That they are facing the boundary controversy within the India. Why it has been happened? That due to the geographical location of the country. India जो जगह रे अच्छी, जो तुम locations रे अच्छी, that is a great difficult, or that creates a great problem to China. चाइना कौन चाहूँ जमी तुम क्लास रे बसुच, तुम जो सीट रे बसला बेलू तुम जो लगा लगी बसुच, तुम देखते हो छोट पिला माने दीटा चेयर, गोटे चेयर रे तुम बसुच कि बस जो बसुच, तुम जो गोटे अधिक सीट माड़ी बसला, नेक्स्ट लोकटा तुमको चिमुड़ी दब कि तुमको ठेली दब. So this is what you should not cross what the boundary of the other persons. तुम अन्यर boundary को केबे ले cross करि परिबो नाही. That is the case of India and China. China says that this is till now this is my boundary. Mo e porjento jota achi seta mo boundary. India kochi na eta mo boundary. So this is what there is a dispute in between India and China. So regarding the different the locations of a country, if the India has not been located near to China, then do you think that this issues was happened? Jodi India China pakre nothanta, tale ei jinsta heithanta ki na. If the Kashmir is not a state of India, jodi Kashmir India ro state hei nathanta, Kashmir jodi Pakistan pa pole thanta, India Pakistan bhitere war heithanta ki na. So this is what this problem has been created by the geography of a country. As in the year of 1948, we have divided the Kashmir into two parts. So for these purposes, they want the another Kashmir to their fold. ସେମାନେ जो बाकी कश्मीर टाको सेमानक पाखु नेबाकु चाहुचंदी. So this is what, this is the dispute that are arising or that are related with the countries from time to time. Then what happened in futures? There will also the chances of war in between India and Nepal, in between India and Bhutan, or in between India and Burma, because these countries are the geographical neighbor country of India. So there can be war in between India and Nepal, India and Bhutan, and India and the Burma. But till now there is no the possibility of war in between three countries. And there can be any type of the maritime border issues in between India and Sri Lanka, India and Indonesia, and India and the Malaysia, if the India is not changing its foreign policies. So it is clear that the geographical situations determined by boundary between the country play important role in the formulations and determinations of foreign policies. So this is the much more important thing, that is called the geographical situations. Whether that is the situation of the mountain era, or maybe the situations of what? That is called as ocean era. So here this occupied and determined your place in between the maintaining the relationship with the border countries. Then the next one is called as that economic development. This is also the major determinants of India's foreign policies. India has the main contributions in the foreign policy of a nation, and India is no exception in this regard. After independence, where national security, sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India have been important on the one hand, and economic development on the other hand, has also been an important aspect of international relations. For maintaining the economic development, or for what, increasing the per capita income of a citizens. India is trying what, to increasing its the economy. India is maintaining the economic development. For maintaining the economic development, the foreign policy of a country is important. ତମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଧନୀ ହେବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରୁଛ, if you want to be rich, then what will happen, you should change your approaches to other persons. Suppose you are a member of a, you are a marketing agent, ତମେ ଗୋଟେ marketing agent ଅଛ. So whenever you approach to the customer to purchase some goods or some product, then you should have a positive approach to the customer. ତମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷକୁ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ କନଭିନ୍ସ କରିବାକୁ ଯାଉଛ, ଫାଷ୍ଟ ତା ଘରୁ ଯାଇ ପାଣି ପିଉଛ, ମତେ ଗୋଟେ ଗ୍ଲାସ ଟେ ପାଣି ମିଳିବ. So this is what, this is an approach of what, the friendly relationship in between the two persons. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ପାଣି ଟିକେ ପିଉଛେ, ନାଇଁ ମତେ ଟିକେ ପାଣି ଦିଅନ୍ତୁ, ପାଣି ଟିକେ ପିଇଦେବ, ଆଜ୍ଞା ଚଳିବ, ଥଣ୍ଡା ପାଣି ହଉ ଗରମ ପାଣି ଯୋଉଟା ହେଲେ ବି ଚଳିବ, ପିଇ ଦଉଛ. ତାପରେ କଣ କହୁଛ, ତମେ ଫାଷ୍ଟ କହ ସାର୍ ଆପଣ ମୋ କଥା ଶୁଣନ୍ତୁ, ଆପଣ କିଣିବେ ନା ଏଟା ପରର କଥା. The second issue is that you can purchase or not, but first of all you have to hear me, you can listen to me, what I am intent to say. ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ଯୋଉଟା କହିବାକୁ ଯାଉଛି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ସେଟା ଶୁଣି ଦିଅ. So this is what, this is called as the marketing policy of a what, the person or the marketer or an agent. So the economic development is basically depends upon the foreign policy of a country. If the foreign policy of a country is the good one, if it is a positive relationship with another country, then what will happen, you can easily procure the raw material, or raw material means what, that is called as concha mal, the resources, the material resources, the raw material, everything from another country. India is what, it is dependent upon India is dependent for petrol to whom, to the your Iraq and Iran. So for everything, for the gold, it is the major partner with the what, the China or maybe Saudi Arab. Okay, so for everything you have to what, increasing positive relationship with another country. So this is what, the economic development of a country. Then the next slide, that is called as that, the national power capability. The economic development of a country that has been consisting of three things. One is called as population, second one is called as natural resources, and third one is called as the technical knowledge. The first one is called as that, the populations. If the population of a country is so large, then what will happen, it creates a problem to the foreign policy of the country. It means that if the population of the country is too large or the too big, then what will happen, the country should have the sufficient what, the sufficient the raw material, the sufficient the resources to feed the people. जदि हमर country रे लोक संख्या अधिक होई जिवे, लोक संख्या को तुमको फीड करिया पई तांको कोन देबा पड़िबो, तांको सर्विस देबा पड़िबो, तांको कोन करिया पड़िबो, तांको जॉब देबा पड़िबो, किबा तांको खाइबा को देबा पड़िबो, तांको रहिबा को देबा पड़िबो, सबु जिंस. So as a welfare state, the population of what do you mean by welfare state? A state which satisfied the livelihood of a person. That is called as a welfare state. So here the population of a country, that is the great determinants of the Indian foreign policy. The population should not be too large or should not be too small. It should not be too small that it cannot help, that it cannot apply the natural resources, or it cannot apply the technical knowledge of the country to make the product into a finished product. Then the natural resources. Natural resources means what? जोड़ा कि तमरो माने country रो तारो production होची, जोड़ा naturally production होची. अपने कंट्री रे बहुत जिंस नेचुरली प्रोडक्ट्स होची, तमरो कोल होची, आयरन होची, बॉक्साइट होची, तो डिफरेंट जिंस होची जोड़ा कि तमरो नेचुरल रिसोर्सेस. जदि गोटे कंट्री रो नेचुरल रिसोर्सेस प्राकृतिक संपद जदि भलो थिबो, ताले व्हाट विल हैपन, इट इज ए पॉजिटिव determinants of India's foreign policy. It will give the positive boost up to the India's foreign policies. Then technical know-how. For every technical matter, we are the great partner of what? The continuing partner of the China. आम जो देखुचे तुम एप्पो हो कि वीवो हो कि डिफरेंट मोबाइल जगह अच्छी, मोर जो एते नॉलेज नाही मोबाइल विषय तुम ए जो कि तुम एमआई हो ए जो तुम मोबाइल जगह अच्छी कि तुम जो घरे जो तुम तुम फूड सप्लाई कर तुम से जो कौन जगह आम जो करुचे फूड सप्लाई करना रे घरे जो आसिक तुमर माने बोड़िया नहीं तुमर बाकी जो कौन कहते जो पिज्जा वगैरह तुम सप्लाई जो करूचंदी डोमिनोस नहीं डोमिनोस तो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका कंपनी टा तुमर जो आउ डिफरेंट जो माने अछंदी मोर हठात मने पडुनी एजा कोन होचंदी ना तुमर चाइना वाला तांकर टेक्निकल नॉलेज जको यूज करचंदी बट टेक्निकल तांकर वर्तमान जो इंडिया छोड़ जो जिन छोड़ा को बैन कर जिम तुमर टिकटॉक हला स्विगी राइट स्विगी ओके स्विगी वर्तमान तुमर टिकटॉक ए सब जिन छोड़ा कोन होची तुमर टेक्निकल नॉलेज जको कोन करचंदी ना अन्य कंट्री रो जो माने जो टेक्निकल नॉलेज जोड़ा हम इंडिया कोन करची तास्ता पैरासाइट अछि बा से जिन छोड़ा को से कोन करची ता सहित पार्टनर होके रोच जाफଳରେ कोन होची इंडिया बिकम्स पुअर टू पुअर. So we says about that we are a rich country having a great manpower, having the affluent natural resources, but till now we are taking the help of the technical knowledge of the China. China रे तमरो population अधिक natural resources देखिया बोले इंडिया तुलना किछि नाय किंतु तंकर technical knowledge China is the great country or the super country in compared to the United States of America in the वर्तमान स्टेज रे चाइना सबुठ स्पीड रे आगु जाइछि only due to what the technical knowledge. So this is the major aspect of what the foreign policy of a country. In वर्तमान चाइना रे जो सिचुएशंस अछि यूएसए मध्य तार लेवल रे से वर्तमान आसी पार नाही. So this is what जोमाटो मु जानिनी जोमाटो चाइना रो कि हेइ थे पारे हाँ हेइ थे पारे जोमाटो चाइना बोते सेतिले वर्तमान कोन करछन्ती एई ऐप जाक लोक माने कोन करछन्ती बंद करछन्ती टिकटॉक टा जोमाटो स्विगी हो तमर मोबाइल फोन जाक जो थिला तमर तो कोन तमर सैमसंग तो इंडियन जाक आउ तमर एप्पो विवो ए सब एमआई ए सब जाक कोन तमर चाइना ब्रांड इट इज ओनली व्हाट तमर जो माने कवर टा तार कोन तमर माने पैकेजेस टा दैट वाज लुकिंग इंटरेस्टिंग आउ थरे की ऑडियो ऑन कला रे ऑडियो ऑन करनी तमर जो कवर पेजेस दैट लुक्स इंटरेस्टिंग और तुम ऑडियो ऑन करनी पिला माने बट ए जिंस गुडा कोन करचंती सैमसंग टा साउथ कोरिया अभिनव सैमसंग टा साउथ कोरिया अच्छा मु तो जानिनी साउथ कोरिया की हेतियो तले इंडिया रो कोडा नोकिया इंडिया रो कोडा लाभा गिरे लाभा इंडिया रो सेटा तो चालुनी मोटरोला कोड रो मोटरोला तुम तो बहुत नॉलेज अछि भाई. अच्छा माइक्रोमैक्स इंडिया मोटरोला यूएसए कार्बन डा कोड रो इंडिया कार्बन कोड रो इंडिया गिरे एसके क्रिएशंस वाओ हैविंग ग्रेट गुड नॉलेज इन मोबाइल फोन थैंक यू स्टूडेंट. अच्छा मोट के लोन ट्रैवलर के लिखी छ तमे इंडियन रो कोडा इंडियन रो मोटरोला ना कोन इंडियन कौन लेक्चर रे कार्बन टा अच्छा मु तो जानि रे बाबा सैमसंग ना इंडियन नहीं रे सैमसंग ना मु इंडियन बोली भाबी दिली. अच्छा जाओ मोर भलो नॉलेज हिला सैमसंग टा साउथ कोरिया रो नहीं. अच्छा गुड आउ कोन सो जानि छो. अच्छा ओके थैंक यू स्टूडेंट्स गिविंग ए गुड नॉलेज अबाउट मोबाइल फोन्स. अच्छा एमआई टा कोठरो एमआई चाइना ना अच्छा हाँ सेटा वर्तमान ये हिच ना बैन अछि ना सेटा वर्तमान बैन अछि ना एमआई टा हाँ कारण मु जेतरो गली ये को स्टोर को गली से माने एमआई रो नाही जहा अछि पुराना जाके रखिचंदी वर्तमान प्ले तुमर स्टोर रे एमआई मोबाइल टा नाही. अच्छा जियोमी मध्य चाइना ताले तम इंडिया रो लाभा छडा किछि नाही. इंडिया होची ग्रेट कंट्री हैविंग ए लार्ज पॉपुलेशन एंड good natural resources and technical knowledges but till now India don't have any type of what except labha any mobile phone आउ किछि तार मोबाइल फोन तार नाही. जियो कोन लेखिले रे संबल तमे कोन जियो गोटे मोबाइल की काई मु तो जानि जियो रो गोटे मोबाइल भालाणे जियो इंडिया इंटेक्स इज फ्रॉम इंडिया नाइ रे इंटेक्स टा इंडिया ही नथिबो इंटेक्स टा इंडिया अच्छा लाभा और इंटेक्स दीटा नाइ रे नोकिया टा इंडिया लेखिछ जने आउ जने कोन यूएसए लेखिछ ताले नोकियाटा कोठु आछि नोकिया आईबॉल टा इंडिया काम एटा तो चालुनी ना तमरो कोन आईबॉल चालुची ना तमरो लाभा चालुची लाभा जी तमरो यूज करला सी भाबुची कोन ना सबडु मूर्ख लोक सी माने व्हाट रिच पर्सन वर्तमान रे तमरो कोडे चालुची रे वर्तमान एप्पल मोबाइल टा चालुची आ जति जे मोबाइल अछि कोन सी मोबाइल रो स्मार्टफोन बा तमरो मोबाइल फोन रो एप्लीकेशन सब नाय नोकिया यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका अच्छा 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 नोकिया जने फिनलैंड लेखिची जने यूएसए लेखिची अच्छा सीईओ फ्रॉम गूगल माइक्रोसॉफ्ट एंड आईएमएफ ए मते कहलो आईएमएफ रे फुल फॉर्म अभिनव कहलो देखिया अभिनव का लेखिलो आईएमएफ रे फुल फॉर्म कोन जदी जानिचो मते खुशी लेइथांदा एज अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ फॉरेन पॉलिसी राइट डाउन द डोंट ओपन द गूगल इंडस्ट्रियल मॉनेटरी फंड इंडस्ट्रियल नाइ रे इंटरनेशनल इंडस्ट्रियल इंडियन ए भगवान अरे नाइ रे बाबा इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड आउडे लेखि इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कि रे बाया जाका कोडी इंग्लिश में लेखुछ इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड ओके सो लेट्स स्टूडेंट्स प्रोसीड नाइ मोबाइल फोन किना सरिला हमर बर्तन प्रोसीड आ टिके करिवा इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड अच्छा अभिनव ओके अच्छा थैंक यू प्रोसीड करिवा टिके आगु को जीवा अच्छा एटी बुझिलो मु जानी परछि तमरो जो कोन इग्नोर जो स्लाइड्स जागा अछि इग्नोर स्लाइड्स रे तमर कोन करछि से सब गोलमाल करी रखिछि आंसर जाको सेही आंसर जाको तमे जति ताको पीडीएफ टाको तमे स्लाइड आकार एई टाइप रे बनै कि दबो जेमति मु करछि वर्तमान डेफिनेशंस मीनिंग प्रिंसिपल्स डिटरमिनेंट्स किमा अप्रोचेस एई टाइप रे जति करी दबो देन यू कैन स्कोर गुड मार्क्स ओके आउ जदि तमे ताको सेमति स्टार्टिंग रे से जेमति लेखिला नेहरू पॉलिसी 19 मु देखि जे इग्नोर जो तमरो मटेरियल जगह अछि जोरा तमरो स्टार्टिंग रे से नेहरू पॉलिसी रो स्टार्ट करिछि नेहरू पॉलिसी स्टार्ट करी कि तमरो टोटल 1949 रे नेहरू कन्वेंस मीटिंग करथिले तम दिल्ली रे को क्वेश्चन ऊपर करथिले जोटा कि तमरो सेम चिंस मेक फॉर अगेंस्ट द कॉलोनियलिज्म एंड इंपीरियलिज्म Dutch policy and he wants to free Indonesia from the Dutch. Same thing is there, but what will happen? The style of writing is different. ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ଯୋଡା ଯୋଡା କହିଲି ଯେମିତି ତମର foreign policy ରେ କଣ ଥିଲା first approaches it is against what colonialism and imperialism and in your IGNOU PDF in the third or fourth line during the Nehru era it has been written that the Nehru conference meeting a conference in New Delhi in the year of 1949 for the questions of what for securing the Indonesian freedom from the Dutch. So everything is there but I was putting this in the point wise manner. So don't worry students. So someone has written or asked me that ma'am where you have got the slide. So I got the slide from the your material but in the same times I did some points from the other books like that of your what you are guy and what your Prem Arora. So different foreign policy of that book mu khali tamaro IGNOU syllabus ko dekheni. So tamaro written tamaro foreign policy bahut jaga re achi tamku jota bhal lagyo dekho but you have to follow the PDF of IGNOU syllabus but after the completion of this slide you can get better understand about the meaning of the foreign policy the determinants what so these things are there. Okay students, so thanks for the knowledge for the mobiles that you give me. So the national power capability of a country it consisting of three things. One is called as populations, natural resource and third one is called as the technical knowledge. Then the next one is called as the economic development. What here the economic development? The India has adopted the democratic system along with problems arising out of it. India wants to achieve development under this system in the short term. So nowadays, India try is a democratic system. It's a part of the democratic system. What's here? What do you mean by a democratic system? Democratic system means what? The ruler of the country has been elected by the mass people or the mass citizens. तमर जोटी तमर रूलर माने अछंती जो रूलर माने अन्य माने सिटीजन्स को द्वारा तमरो what they are elected, that is called as a democratic systems. So as a part of the democratic system, India wants to achieve its development in a very short period of time. India ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ କଣ କରୁଛି, ବହୁତ ଜଲ୍ଦି ତାର development ଚାହୁଁଛି. So in the economic development or in the economic scenario, India wants to change some of its principles. It wants to regulate the resources in such a way that there should not be any danger to the fundamental rights of the individual liberty. It has its resources, but it wants to regulate its resources in such a way, एमिति प्रकार से regulate କରିବା चाहूँगी, that will not hinder, that it will not curtail or it will not create the problems to the fundamental rights and the liberty of the individuals. Neither the necessity of too much foreign assistance and dependence is denied, nor can a large portion of internal resources by a nation, either for today or tomorrow, be spared for military investment. So India has one principle is there. मैम किछि देखा जाउनी, काहाको देखा जाउनी, सत्यभामा आचार्य देखा जाउनी, अन्य मानो देखा जाउची, अन्य मानो देखा जाउची कि सुस्मिता बेरा देखा जाउनी. वेट करो स्टूडेंट, देखिए एबे दुष्टि ना रे. Yes, ma'am. बाकी समस्त प्रॉब्लम है. वीडियो ऑन कर दे चंती सरस्वती रथ. हाँ तुम वीडियो कहीं ऑन कर दियो रे. सरस्वती रथ वीडियो ऑफ करो. सरस्वती रथ मु जेतलो वीडियो रे भनी तम माने कहीं वीडियो शो करछ, मु तम वीडियो देखि इंटरेस्टेड नाही. सरस्वती रथ वीडियो ऑफ करो. ज्योतिर्मयी ज्योतिस्मिता बारिक वीडियो ऑफ करो. हेलो एक स्लाइड विजिबल है. स्लाइड विजिबल अच्छे स्टूडेंट. हेलो हेलो I wish to be audible to you. Problem. सुस्मिता पटनायक अकाउंट क्लिक करछो तो अभिनव तिवारी विजिबल है. एबे जोड़े एरो मार्क वाला मार्कटा अछि से सुस्मिता पटनायक क्लिक करो. सेटा स्लाइड तो विजिबल हो. अच्छा एबे देखा गला प्रतिमा माझी. हां ओके स्टूडेंट. So in the next slides we are having one more thing that is called as the economic aspect of the foreign policy of a country. So as India adopted the democratic system, so India wants to develop its economy in a very short term period of time. So for these purposes, it wants to regulate the resources in such a way that there should not be any danger to the fundamental rights or the individual liberty of the citizen. Neither the necessity of too much foreign assistance and dependence is denied, nor can a large portion of internal resource by a nations either for today or tomorrow be spared for military investment. What I mean by this, India did not want the dependence upon other neighbor country, nor it wants to spare its money upon the military investment. The only nature has changed, but demand for external assistance is still continued in India after the independence. And this has pressurized India's foreign policy from time to time. The demand for external assistance. If India is facing any type of the war, any type of problem is there. So certainly the India's Prime Minister is at the back door of the superpowers to get the assistance from any of the superpower. Till that this type of the practice is happening. आज देखो चाइना रे इंडिया रे जो तमरो वार लागला इंडिया सीधा जाई यूएस. So this is what this is called as that for the demand for external assistance is still continued. Then the next one that is called as that the India is in between the ideology of capitalism and communism. India was in search of such an ideology that which did not in favor of capitalism, not in favor of the communism, but it wants an independent ideology. That ideology keeping India free from the both ideology. ଆମର जो कैपिटलिज्म आइडियोलॉजी और कम्युनिज्म जो आइडियोलॉजी अच्छी ए दीटा जाक आइडियोलॉजी को छाड़ी करी इंडिया कोन करछि गोटे नुवा आइडियोलॉजी को एक्सेप्ट करे चेष्टा करछि. So India has to determine its foreign policy in context of both the ideology, where one side it can maintain coordinations between the two nations. It wants to adopt those type of the ideology in its foreign policy by which there will not be any type of harm to the capitalism or to the communism nations. Then in the economic development, we are having a series of things. One is called as the selection of ideologies required. The second one, if India favored the democratic setup after independence during the whole period of Cold War, it was only due to the fact that India wanted to get benefit of cooperation from both the superpower of that time. If India being the alliance of one power, then what will happen? India cannot get the support from United States of America. So India being the part of the democratic setup and not the alliance of any type of the superpower, it gets the corporations and the benefits of both the power from that time until that time. Okay, so this is the policy, the economic policy, and this economic policy help India for the development. And in the diplomacy or the development of economic policy, three things is required. One is security for the country, foreign aid, and foreign trade. What do you mean by security? Security in the sense is what? That is called as security internally and security externally. India wants the security to the citizens that are inside the nations. And at the same time, it wants the security from the external world. So here, the next one is called as the foreign aid. Foreign aid means what? That is called as economic assistance. Economic assistance, or maybe called as sometimes what? It may be called as that the technical assistance, and sometimes what? That is called as natural resource assistance. So for these things, the foreign aid is also required. Then the next one that is called as foreign trade. So whatever the product that has been produced in India, it should have transactions in the international level. Suppose India produce some product, and if you are having a good relationship of, suppose take the example of India and China. Till now, India has no positive relationship or the good relationship with China. So what will happen? We block all the China up in India. So for that purpose, what will happen? The economic of the China or the economic development of the country is highly, it is a break in the relationship in between the two countries, that is India and the China. So the same thing is what, that is the same thing in the case of the India and the other country also. If India is not maintaining a good relationship with other country, then the foreign trade of the country cannot be take place. ଯଦି ଇଣ୍ଡିଆର ଅନ୍ୟ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରି ସହିତ ଯଦି ଭଲ ରିଲେସନ୍ସ ରହିବନି, then they will not be import something and they will not be export the product. ସେମାନେ କୋଉ ଜିନିଷକୁ କିଣିବେନି କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି ଜିନିଷକୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ବିକିବେନି. So by that what will happen? The international transactions cannot be happen. So three things are required for the economic development of the country. One is called as security, security for the person, security for the nations, and security for the what? That is called as the product. So security means the internal security and also the external security. External security means what? The India should not be the part of, or should not be what? A factor, or maybe called as that a product of the superpower. India को security दीटा level रे दरकार. वो country ताको attack करी पारिबनी externally किंबा security level India काको दबो ना तार citizens को मध्य it will protect the security to the internally. So for which India is not a rich country, it is a poor country, so it requires the foreign aid. Foreign aid means what? That is assistance. Assistance in the monetary level, assistance in the natural resources level, assistance in the technical knowledge level. किसी जिनस अछि आमे जानि नै, किसी जिनस अछि आम पाखरे पैसा नै, किसी जिनस अछि जो पाखरे हमर रॉ मटेरियल अवेलेबल नै. ए सब जिनस को आमे कोन करछो, we can take the help of the foreign countries. Then for transacting the business of the product, then what will happen? We can go for the foreign trade. Someone presenting Pratima, ताकू next time मु काढी देबी, मो मुंडो आज खराब कर सलानी तो माने. की प्रेजेंट कर जरे तमे प्रेजेंट करबो, मो क्लास एटी ब्लॉक करी बंद कर देबी. की प्रेजेंट करजो, वीडियो बंद करो. अच्छा स्टूडेंट मते गोटे कथा को तमे कि बुझिलो कोन मते को. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड म आउडे क्लास रे पढे या पढे तमे निजे बुझी पारियोनी. So in this class we are having evident knowledge. I go ahead कले केमते हो, तमु डाउट अछि ना, डाउटिंग लेटा करी कि म आगु बुझिबि ना. अच्छा, in this class we had covered the introductions, the meaning, the objective, approaches and determinants of foreign policy. Okay. In the introduction chapter, we had a clear, we had a knowledge about what India was during 1947, during the Cold War period, and during the after the Cold War period, and in the present your present time, or in the present situations, what is the India's foreign policy with other neighbors country. So 4 phases are there. First is during the time of the independence period in 1947. Okay, so as a country, as an independent country, and as the experienced country, as a colony of the British Empire, the India has knowledge about the colonialism, imperialism, and different type of the economic development. India know that what things is required for the economic development of a country, and by these experiences, India made the foreign policy during the time of what? During the time of 1947. Then during the time of the Cold War period, in the Cold War period, what was the foreign policy of India? During the Cold War period, India being a democratic country, India himself portrayed himself as a democratic country and spared himself from both the ideological blocks, from the USA and from the Russia. And after the dissolutions of the Soviet Russia during the year of 1991, India become what? It becomes the pro-West. Pro-West means what? It support the West European country, and also it supports the capitalist country. So now India is so much of powerful that it can be what? It can counter, it can fight against the China. Then we, in the introduction, we had gone through about that in between the 60 to 50 decades, we can say that India wants, as we know that India is just like as in what the newly developing state. Now India is not a developing state, but it has been gone through the period of the developed the country, not the developing one, but now it is a developed country. And much more it can be says that India becomes a superpower in future, just like the China. China is what the territorial. The China is what it is a. It is the small the geographical. If you are looking about the geographical boundary of the China, then it is too small. But now the China is now a superpower. So similarly, in future, it can be possible that in the global politics, India can be an influential power if India is adopting the foreign policies. Then in the foreign policy, what we can say about the meaning of the foreign policy of a nations or of our India. In the background, we can check that the foreign policy of a country is naturally what it depends upon the behavior. What type of the behavior or what type of the approaches that a country had with the neighbor country, with the superpower, with the other country. Okay, what the countries had approaches with the colonial country, with the imperial country, with the newly developed country, with the Asian country, or many things are there. Okay, so if its approaches is the good or if its approaches is the positive, then what will happen? It can expand its relations. If its approaches is negative, then it's always made in hindrances to the what the relationship with one country with the another country. Then the next thing is that if the positive approaches makes the foreign policy to be continued, and the negative approaches makes the country what the foreign policy to change. Jodi tar negative approaches roila, if it will make a or create a block in between the two country, then the India should change its foreign policy. Jodi are positive roila, then it will continue its foreign policies. Okay, tapare ame direct asle what is the objective, why we adopt the foreign policy, what is the main objective. In the objective slide, we can cover about the first thing is that it protects the citizens. It protects the what the preservation, gives the self preservation, security, the boundary, your security, the geographical security, the internal security, and it helps the nations to aloof from what to the war, to the aggressions, to the conflict with other nations. যদি তোমার ফরেন পলিসি ভালো থিব তাহলে তুমি কোন হব ইউ ক্যান নট বি দ্য পার্ট অফ এনি টাইপ অফ ওয়ার। তোমার যুদ্ধ যদি গোটে লোক সবুলে উপরে পড়ি ঝগড়া তোমার ঝগড়াটা কেমতি সৃষ্টি হবে যদি তোমার নেগেটিভ অ্যাপ্রোচেস অন্য কন্ট্রি সহিত অন্য লোক সহিত রহিব। If you are having a positive relation, ତମକୁ ଗୋଟେ ଚାପଡ଼ାଟେ ମାରିଲେ ତମେ ଗାଳିଟା ଯଦି ଦେଖେଇବ, if you are having a positive relation, there will not be any type of a war in between you. ତମର ଯଦି positive relations ରହିଲ, ତମର foreign ତମର approaches ଯଦି ଅଲଗା ରହିଲ, তাহলে তোমরা কোন হবে, there will not be any type of war, any type of the conflict, any type of your what any things in between you and your what the friend. So here what will happen, now it gives the security, the self preservations not only to the citizens but also to the geography, to the boundary, to the site, so everything is there. Then in the next slide we had gone through the principles of foreign policy. In the principle, the first principle that is called as NAM, I think non-alignment ta bujhi deithibo. Not non-alignment means what? The Nehru adopted the non-alignment. It is called as that. The word, the negative word that is always aligned with the positive words. Non-cooperations, non-alignment. That things is that the meaning is the positive meaning, but the word is the negative word. But in the non-alignment, the Nehru has adopted this policy with the help of the five your heroes or five your leaders are there, like that of Nasir of Egypt, Tito of Yugoslavia, Sukarno of Indonesia, and Nkrumah of Ghana. And in the year of 1955, the principle of the non-alignment has been adopted. It has been adopted by India not to align with any type of the power block, but being a the separate power block in between the two. Not to be the side of United States of America, not to be the side of the Soviet Russia. So these are what the principles of the non-alignment blocks. Then in the next slide we had covered about the principles of Indian foreign policy. So is a principles এটা কিছু ডাউট থিলা কি স্টুডেন্ট আ পূর্ব স্লাইড টারে নাম ডারে কোন ডাউট থিলা नाम रे कोन डाउट थिला स्टूडेंट आई एम आस्किंग यू नाम रे कोन डाउट थिला कि नॉन अलाइनमेंट मूवमेंट रे कोन डाउट थिला कि अच्छा क्लियर हैला तो ना कि उडे पचार थिला मझिरे रश्मिता तमर डाउट थिला कि अच्छा what do you mean by the non-alignment movement? Okay, so it has been the non-alignment movement. It was started by Jawaharlal Nehru in the year of 1955 in Bandung conferences, and during that time, the five leaders or the five heroes of the world, like that of your Indonesia, your Ghana, your Yugoslavia, and Egypt, including India, they initiate one movement not to be the part of any type of power bloc like that of your what the capitalist or maybe the communist country, but being a democratic country they want to be aloof from both the power blocs. Okay, acha panchashila upare tamo doubt achi, acha ठीक अछि. Then what even the next slide, that is called as that the faith in United Nations. Okay, so faith in United Nations means what? The as a part of or as a member of the United Nations, it is a great pioneer or maybe the champion of the what the principles of United Nations. As a member of the United Nations, it always supported the peace and the prosperity of itself, and not to be the part of any type of war or any type of aggressions with the another country. Then the next slide, the next point, not next slide. India wants to use its all its what the power and the economy or maybe the money only for the peaceful purposes, not for any type of your what the any type of war or anything else. So it is hesitant to use its atomic energy for the war, for aggressions, for hostility, for anything else. But it wants to use it for the peaceful purposes. Then is a what the experience is a what the part of experience, having a part of experience from the colonialism and the imperialisms, India wants or India opposes the colonialism and imperialisms. Colonialism means what? Colonialism means when a country invaded by any type of superpower for making any type of what the economic relations, and after the country is subjugated by the superpower, it becomes a colony of that country, just like India was the colony of United Kingdoms or England. Then when a country is annexed from one country to the another country, that is called as imperialism, that is called as the merge or maybe annexation of territory. Then racialisms, we know the case of the apartheid. So India is a what the great oppositions or the great your theme of the opposition theme of the racialism, the issues of racialisms, terrorisms. Then developing relations with neighbor country. India is having good relationship with the neighbor country like that of Bhutan, like that of Nepal, not your Pakistan or not your which one, that is China. But now India is having good relationship with other country and trying to maintain good relationship with China and the Pakistan by doing different type of treaty, different type of what the mutual your agreements. Then India is tied to international economic order. So as a country, it has been getting its your what the independence in the year of 1947. So as it is a newly emerging country, so it wants to change its economic order by putting different things in its code. This is called as what? This is called as new international economic order. So it wants to develop itself in a very short your span of time. कौन स्लाइड्स प्रॉब्लम रहिला रे अथरे मते तो कहीं देखा जाउची तमु सु कोन होउची मझिरे मझिरे स्लाइड देखा जाउनी मैम स्लाइड प्रॉब्लम कौन प्रॉब्लम जगदीश भाई तमु देखा जाउनी आ अन्य मानु देखा जाउची देखा जाउची मैम ताले तमर प्रॉब्लम थिबो अच्छा तमे देखो आउथरे रिजॉइन करो अच्छा स्टूडेंट्स कौन ऐसे ऊपर बुझिल लुक ईस्ट पॉलिसी और एक्ट ईस्ट पॉलिसी मध्य डिफरेंस कौन मते कहलो देखि व्हाट इज द बेसिक डिफरेंस बिटवीन लुक ईस्ट पॉलिसी एंड एक्ट ईस्ट पॉलिसी एंड व्हाई इंडिया adopted this policy and in which year it has adopted कहलो देखि व्हाट who has adopted or who has ये the champion of the look east policy तमे गूगल काढी मते कोन जानिचो the look east policy. PV Narasimha Rao is the main champion of the look east policy. In the look east policy, हाँ very good अभिनव तमे गूगल काढना तो एक्ट ईस्ट पॉलिसी कार हाँ वेरी गुड नरेंद्र मोदी केबे हितिला मने रखिछ ताले तुम कही गला लिखुच तो वेरी गुड 2014. So the look east policy in the act east policy, in between these two policy, your PV Narasimha Rao, he has said that country that India should have good relationship with the southeast countries. But your Narendra Modi, he has said that the India should be had made the main the what that is called as consideration not to the southeast policy but to the east countries. So for these purposes, he introduced one more policies that is called as active policy. So this is what this is one of the principles of India's foreign policy also. So during the determinants, we had divided the determinants into two things. One is called as internal and second one is the external. In the internal factor, there are different things are there that are inside the country, and in the external the factor that are maintaining the behavior of the country with the other country. Just like the what that is the international organizations, the relations with other countries. So these things are coming from the external factor. And in the internal factor, the first thing is called as the geography, size. Okay, so different things are there. In the geography, I have included the topography, climate, boundary, temperature, soil, population, and water resource. Because we know that for the boundary issues, there is the problem in between China and India, in between the India and Pakistan. For water resources, we are having the dispute in between the Bangladesh and India. For populations, we are having the dispute in between the India and Pakistan. So for these purposes, the topography, climate, boundary, temperature, soil. So these are what these are called as the internal factors. And these factors are coming from the geography of a country. So we know that the geography of a country always plays an important role. But in the Indian perspective, we can say is that three things is one important. Where the country has position, koti achi. Second thing is that the size of a country. PV Narasimha introduced look east policy to counter the USA, which was very close to Pakistan at that time. Ma'am, can you please निश्चित अभिनव और स्लाइड टा सरी जाओ. Then the next तमरे एटा एक्चुअली मु क्लास रे तमरे एटा एक्चुअली सिलेबस रे नाही कि तमे जदी कहबो 5 minutes रे कहि देबी असुविधा. Then the next one is called as that in the Indian perspectives we are having the three things. One is called as that the geographical positions, size, and the boundary. Okay, the size of a country, the large and small. If the country is the large one, then it is a great hurdles to the Indian foreign policies. The boundaries also has a great your problems. Boundary means what? The large mountains, the oceans. So these are the boundary. They are giving sometimes insecurity to India. Okay, then the positions where the country has been located. Koti achi, north re achi, na south re achi, na ka pakhre achi. So these are things are what? These are called as the greater determinants of the India's foreign policy. Then the determinants of the Indian foreign policy from the ancient to the modern period. We had discussed the determinants of foreign policy from the ancient to the modern period. And we can say that India is facing many problems from the invaders of the Muslim during the ancient times. So we are having the Tughlaqs are there. So different the invaders are there. They are coming from the northeast. So they made the problem to the Indians. But simultaneously, India expanded the relations in the modern periods, from the medieval to the modern periods. Now India is maintaining good relations with Tibet, China, Mongolia, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia. Maritime boundary up to how many kilometers? Okay. Then the next one is called as that the medieval period. In a medieval period, there are different things there that is creating the hurdles in between the your India and the other country. So these are also a great problem for the India's foreign policy. Then, what was the foreign policy that India adopted during the Second World War? And we know that the India did not cast a specific role in between the communism and the capitalism. And India being a what the colonial, India being a democratic country, it plays an independent what the block in between the communism and the capitalism. Then in the next slide, we are having what the maritime relations with the different country and the boundary relationship with the neighbor country. Then this is the Kargil War that was happened in 1999. Okay, that is the border war. That is the maritime issues, and maybe there will be the problem or border problem or maybe maritime dispute in between the India and Pakistan or maybe any other country in the near futures. Then we are having the economic development. What are the things that is required in the economic development? In the economic development, we are having the population's natural resource and technical knowledge. Students, ତମର ଏତିକି ଥାଉ ନେକ୍ସଟ ସ୍ଲାଇଡ୍ ମୁଁ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ଆଗକୁ ଯିବି କାରଣ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ତମର ବେଶୀ ସରିଗଲେ ତମ ମୁଣ୍ଡ ଖରାପ ହେଇଯିବ ହେଲା ମୋର ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଦିଟା ୟୁନିଟ୍ ଅଛି ମୁଁ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଟାଇମ୍ ତମକୁ ଇମ୍ପ୍ରୁଭ୍ କରିକି କହିବି ଓକେ ଷ୍ଟୁଡେଣ୍ଟସ୍ ଯଦି କିଛି ଡାଉଟ୍ ଲାଗିଲା ତମେ କିଏ ଗୋଟେ ପଚାରିଥିଲା ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ ପଢ଼ାନ୍ତୁ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଲାଷ୍ଟ 5 ମିନିଟ୍ସ ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ ବୁଝେଇ ଦେଇଛି କିଛି ଡାଉଟ୍ ଅଛି नो डाउट प्रभात सर ओवर टू यू Thanks, students. Thanks, lot now.